Let's keep things tragic for today, with one of the sadder tales from the Witcher books. There are plenty of characters in The Witcher whom you can call their life miserable, yet there aren't many who have touched as many readers of the books as the tale of Essi Daven. A tale filled with one-sided love and ends with a tragic twist. Essi Daven grew up by the sea, which for her symbolized a constant movement, change, with riddles, mysteries and something she could not grasp. Even with 1,000 poems, she could not describe or reach the core of what made the sea so special to her. It was very possible that this sea inspired her to become a poet. It is very likely that she went to Oxenford to study there, as she was said to be well read and able to speak the elder tongue. As a troubadouress, she was known not only by her real name, but also under the nickname Little Eye. This name was a reference to the fact that one of her curls would often fall down over one of her eyes, leaving one of her two eyes visible. Over the years, she performed all over the north, and on many occasions met bards and artists in the halls of kings. She was friendly with King Ethane of Sedaris, who was well known for his love of art, and also had a close relation with Dandelion, whom she had known since she was a child. Yet her relation with Dandelion wasn't what you would expect out of a woman-chasing poet. Instead, Dandelion cared for Essi, as if she was his little sister. The first time we actually get to meet Essi Daven is in the short story A Little Sacrifice, in the Sword of Destiny. Geralt and Dandelion run into her while they are in Bremerford, where, after a not so stressful job as an interpreter between the local duke and a mermaid, they found themselves in need of coin. Luckily enough for them, Dandelion was invited to play at the wedding of a merchant's son, for a small amount of coin and a place to stay for a short while. Dandelion accepted the job, but not without hesitation, as he felt insulted for being the second bard and not the first and main attraction at the wedding. For the merchant Drouhard had already hired the Honorable Miss Essi Daven. More than 4 people of various estates and professions, not to mention the pimply youth and his snub-nosed fiancé, with her eyes fixed on her husband-to-be, were listening reverentially to a sonorous and melodious ballad sung by a young woman in a demure blue frock, sitting on the platform with a lute resting on her knee. The woman could not have been older than 18, and was very slim. Her long, luxuriant hair was the color of dark gold. They entered as the girl finished the song, and thanked the audience for the thundering applause with a nod of her head, which shook her hair gently. The girl in the blue dress forced her way through the crowd, which had crashed into the food-laden tables like a sea wave. "Greetings, Dandelion," she said. Geralt considered the expression eyes like stars banal and hackneyed, particularly since he had begun traveling with Dandelion, as the troubadour was inclined to throw that compliment about freely and usually indeed undeservedly. However, with regards to Essi Daven, even someone as little susceptible to poetry as the Witcher had to concede the aptness of her nickname. For, in her agreeable and pretty, but otherwise unremarkable little face, shone a huge, beautiful, shining dark blue eye, which riveted the gaze. Essi Daven's other eye was largely covered and obscured by a golden curl, which fell onto her cheek. From time to time, Essi flung the curl away with a toss of her head or a puff, at which point it turned out that Little Eye's other little eye was in every way the equal of the first. "Greetings, Little Eye," Dandelion said, grimacing. "That was a pretty ballad you sang. You've improved your repertoire considerably. I've always maintained that if one is incapable of writing poetry oneself, One should borrow other people's. Have you borrowed many of them? A few, Essi Daven resorted at once and smiled, revealing little white teeth. 2 or 3. I wanted to use more, but it wasn't possible. Dreadful gibberish, and the tune, though pleasant and unpretentious in their simplicity, not to say primitivism, are not what my audiences expect. Have you written anything new, Dandelion? I don't seem to be aware of it. Small wonder, the bard sighed. I sing my ballads in places to which only the gifted and renowned are invited. And you don't frequent such occasions, after all. Essi blushed slightly and blew the lock of her hair aside. Very true, she said. I don't frequent bordellos, as the atmosphere depresses me. I sympathize with you, that you have to sing in places like that. But, well, that's the way it is. If one has no talent, one can't choose one's audiences. Now Dandelion visibly blushed. Little Eye, however, laughed joyously, flung an arm around his neck, and all of a sudden kissed him on the cheek. The Witcher was taken aback, but not too greatly. A professional colleague of Dandelion could not, indeed, differ too much from him in terms of predictability. Dandelion, you old bugger, as he said, still hugging the bard's neck. I'm glad to see you again. In good health and in full possession of your mental facilities. Pfft, puppet. Dandelion seized the girl around the waist, picked her up and spun around so that her dress billowed around her. You are magnificent. I haven't heard such marvelous spitefulness for ages. You bicker even more captivatingly than you sing. And you look simply stunning. Geralt and Essi's first meeting didn't go over very smoothly. Geralt was awkward and didn't know what to do. Yet the conversation shifted to the Duke and his love for the mermaid. Geralt made some passive-aggressive and disapproving comments to Essi about how he didn't like the habit of some poets to have personal problems of others being sung from rooftops. This wasn't Essi's intention, and she felt offended by Geralt's remarks and walked off to the stables. During the wedding feast, Essi was approached by a young man who seemed interested in her. Yet he was quickly driven off by her sneering at him and a few quick words. When Dandelion started singing, Essi walked onto the terrace, quickly being followed by Geralt, who wanted to apologize to her for his remarks. Essi also wanted to apologize to Geralt for her behavior, for she had some problems with controlling herself and her feelings. As they talked, Geralt came closer to her, and it's there where we get the best and shortest description of Geralt and Essi's relationship. He felt the warmth emanating from her, and the faint scent of verbena. He liked the scent of verbena, although the scent of verbena was not the scent of lilac and gooseberry. As the scent of verbena became stronger for Geralt, he suddenly grabbed Essi by her waist, and they kissed, eagerly, for a long time. Essi freed herself from his embrace without effort, and asked him why he did that. Geralt only caught a glance of her eye, and realized he had made a mistake, and that lying would only make everything worse. As Geralt didn't answer her question, she proposed that they go back inside, and that she would sing a song for him. Essi had made an impression on Geralt, and he had definitely made an impression on her. They met again the next morning, when Geralt was about to start his investigation into the matter of some dead pearl divers. As they walked together along the water discussing the nature of the monster, Essi gave some insights that Geralt hadn't thought of himself. Yet they were quickly interrupted by the Duke, who complained to Geralt about how his Shinas hadn't shown up after he had waited for 3 hours, something he blamed Geralt for. As Duke Agloval tried to threaten Geralt with throwing him out of his land, Essi showed her claws a bit, and in turn threatened to write a negative ballad about him, while at the same time reminding that she and Dandelion were friends with the King of Sedaris. As the Duke stormed off, Geralt still had the problem that no one in Bremervoort dared to sail him out to where he needed to go for his investigation, as they were all afraid of the monster. Essi suggested that she could steer a boat for him, but Geralt quickly told her no, for he didn't want any harm to befall her. Essi and Geralt talked about Geralt's feelings and emotions, for she was convinced he was just hiding his feelings because he was sensitive and hiding his fears. Geralt, however, made clear that he didn't think of it that way, and that he had his emotions to protect himself in situations. As the conversation shifted to talking about the tides and how it affected the bay, for it was less sensitive of a subject, and Geralt wanted to know if he could walk up to certain points in the water, like the Devil's Fangs. Shinas popped up from the water and asked them where Agloval was. She was astonished that he had left and didn't wait longer for her. She then asked Geralt if Essi was his beloved, commenting on how they were a pretty couple if they would have had fish tails instead of legs. He responded quickly by saying that she was not his beloved and that they barely knew each other. Essi felt hurt by this comment of Geralt, and in turn, after Shinas had left, Geralt asked her how she knew Elder Speech. She told him, with a distinct bitterness, that he couldn't have known, for they barely knew each other. As Geralt and Dandelion walked between the rocks to the Dragon Fangs, which they were able to do due to the tide, Dandelion mentioned that he was looking for a gift for Essi, as the next day was her birthday. Dandelion collected all the shells he could find, as he thought that they would have pearls, including one he found on the edge of the shelf, just before a large drop into the deep sea. Yet not everything went smoothly. Geralt was injured in his fight with some Vodvinoi, with a deep cut in his arm. As Dandelion was trying to patch him up by the shoreline, Essi saw them and came to help patch up Geralt, for Dandelion wasn't doing a great job. She flooded Geralt with questions about what had happened, yet he couldn't answer them, which was taken badly by Essi, for she thought he was hiding information and didn't trust her. Essi tried to make it clear that she wasn't a gossip, and that she could be trusted, to which Geralt apologized. As Dandelion went off to spend some time with the girl, Essi asked him about the cobalt blue shell that was still in the bag among the sludge and seaweed. He told Essi it was a gift from Geralt to her, and then Dandelion quickly left. In truth, Dandelion had forgotten about the shell. Essi waited a bit. After Dandelion had left, I had asked Geralt if he truly remembered her birthday. He apologized for what Dandelion had said and asked her to give him the shell. She instead told him that she liked how the shell looked and wanted to keep it as a memento. She took out a knife and opened the shell to clean it out. To their surprise, a blue-colored pearl fell out. Essi was hesitant to accept the pearl, for it was very valuable. "It's yours," he interrupted. Dandelion, though he played the fool, really did remember your birthday. He really wanted to please you. He talked about it, talked aloud about it. Well, fate heard him and did what had to be done. And you, Geralt? Me? Did you want to please me? That pearl is so beautiful. It must be hugely valuable. Don't you regret it? I'm pleased you liked it. And if I regret anything, it's that there was only one. And that... yes? That I haven't known you as long as Dandelion. Long enough to be able to know and remember your birthday. To be able to give you presents and to please you. To be able to call you Puppet. She moved closer and suddenly threw her arms around his neck. He nimbly and swiftly anticipated her movement, dodged her lips, and kissed her coldly on the cheek, embracing her with his uninjured arm. Clumsily, with reserve, gently. He felt the girl stiffen and slowly move back, but only to the length of her arms, which were still resting on his shoulders. He knew what she was waiting for, but he did not do it. He did not draw her towards him. Essi let him go, and turned towards the open, dirty little window. "Of course," she suddenly said. "You barely know me. I forgot that you barely know me." "Essi," he said after a moment's silence. I barely know you either," she blurted, interrupting him. What of it? I love you. I can't help it. Not at all. Essi. Yes, I love you, Geralt. I don't care what you think. I've loved you from the moment I saw you at the engagement party. She broke off, lowering her head. She stood before him, and Geralt regretted it was her, and not the fish-eyed creature with a sword, who had been hidden beneath the water. He had stood a chance against this creature, but against her, he had none. You aren't saying anything, she said. Nothing. Not a word. Sit beside me, Essi. She sat down, reluctantly, tactfully, far away. Too close. When I found out, she whispered, interrupting the long silence, when I heard the dandelion had dragged you onto the beach, bleeding, I ran out of the house like a mad thing. Rushed blindly, paying no attention to anything. And then, do you know what I thought? That it was magic. That you had cast a spell on me. That you had secretly, treacherously bewitched me, spellbound me with your wolfish medallion with the evil eye. That was what I thought. But I didn't stop. Kept running. Because I understood that I desire to fall under your spell. And the reality turned out to be more awful. You didn't cast any spell on me. You didn't use any charms. Why, Geralt? Why didn't you bewitch me? He was silent. If it had been magic, she said, it would all be so simple and easy. I would have just succumbed to your power, and I'd be happy. But this... I don't know what's happening to me. Damn it, he thought. If Yennefer feels like this, I do now when she is with me, I feel sorry for her. And I shall never be astonished again. I will never hate her again. Never again. Because perhaps Yennefer feels what I'm feeling now. Feels a profound certainty that I ought to fulfill. What it is impossible to fulfill. Even more impossible to fulfill than the relationship between Agloval and Shinas. Certainty that a little sacrifice isn't enough here. You'd have to sacrifice everything. And there'd still be no way of knowing if that will be enough. No, I won't continue to hate Yennefer for not being able and not wanting to give me more than a little sacrifice. Now I know that a little sacrifice is a hell of a lot. Geralt, Little Eye moaned, drawing her head into her shoulders. I'm so ashamed. I'm ashamed of what I'm feeling. It's like an accursed infirmity, like malaria, like being unable to breathe. He was silent. I always thought that was beautiful and noble state of mind. Noble and dignified, even if it makes one unhappy. After all, I composed so many ballads about it. And it's organic, Geralt. Mainly and heartbreakingly organic. Someone who is ill or has drunk poison might feel like this. Because like someone who has drunk poison, one is prepared to do anything in exchange for an antidote. Anything. Even be humiliated. Essi, please. Yes, I feel humiliated. Humiliated by having confessed everything to you, disregarding the dignity that demands one suffers in silence. By the fact that my confession caused you embarrassment. I feel humiliated. By the fact that you're embarrassed. But I couldn't have behaved any differently. I am powerless. At your mercy. Like someone who's bedridden. I've always been afraid of illness. Of being weak, helpless, hopeless and alone. I've always been afraid of sickness. Always believing it is the worst thing that could befall me. Essi formed a conflict for Geralt, as he was in love with Yennefer, and everything reminded him of her. But he felt bad for Essi, and didn't want to make her feel so bad. When he embraced her, she stopped crying immediately, wiped away her tears, shaking her head and forcefully turning away so that he could not see her face. And then she pressed herself to him firmly, burying her head in his chest. A little sacrifice, he thought. Just a little sacrifice. For this will calm her. A hug, a kiss, a calm caress. She doesn't want anything more. And even if she did, what of it? For a little sacrifice. A very little sacrifice is beautiful and worth. Were she to want more? it would calm her. A quiet, calm, gentle act of love. And why, it doesn't matter. Because Essi smells of verbena, not lilac and gooseberry. Doesn't have cool, electrifying skin. Essi's hair is not a black tornado of gleaming curls. Essi's eyes are gorgeous, soft, warm and cornflower blue. And they don't blaze with a cold, unemotional, deep violet. Essi will fall asleep afterwards, turn her head away, open her mouth slightly. Essi will not smile in triumph. For Essi is not Yennefer. And that is why I cannot find that little sacrifice inside myself. Essi understood that Geralt was conflicted about his feelings. She, however, loved him and wanted to be with him, asking him if it could be eventually something if she waited, like how a pearl grows inside the oyster. Geralt in turn proposed to have the pearl from the shell be set into a talisman, in a silver flower, which she could wear like how he wears his medallion. She said that she would never part from it, and asked him if it would bring her luck, to which Geralt replied that it would bring her luck. They sat there together, in silence for a little while. The next day, on Essi's birthday, Geralt went to the Duke to talk about the intelligent creatures he encountered in the water. The Duke became furious and wanted to go to war with the ocean, and to hire Geralt as a mercenary. Geralt rejected the mercenary work, to which Angloval tried to shame him for rejecting the work. Essi couldn't take Angloval's words. She lashed out to him, with a long monologue about why Geralt was better than him. Her words were powerful enough to shut the Duke down. As she told him why he couldn't have the ocean, he responded to her that he would make the ocean red with blood, and extract the wealth he could, and nothing could change his mind. Essi asked him if he was sure about it, and he said he was. Essi smiled, as suddenly Shinas came walking in. Early the next morning, Geralt, Dandelion and Essi left Bremerford. They travelled together for a day, and they would split the next day, each on their own separate paths. Essi talked to Geralt about the pearl, which had become a symbol for her love for him, and their relationship. Dandelion was growing tired of everything, and wanted them to figure it out, and not in a few years, and told them to talk about it and sleep with each other afterwards, as he went fishing to give them some space and privacy. After he had walked off, Geralt and Essi stood for a long time. Stood, holding hands. Then the Witcher spoke softly for a long time, and Little Eyes, Little Eye was full of tears. And then, by the gods, they did it. She and he. And everything was alright. The next day, the three of them had organized something of a ceremonial supper. They enjoyed themselves for one evening, before each of them would go on their own way. Dandelion and Essi had a singing contest. As Geralt was listening to their songs, he was thinking about Yennefer and Essi. He had some foreboding feelings about the latter. As they calmed down, Essi lay down next to Geralt and squeezed in under his arm, and fell peacefully asleep. It took a while, but Geralt eventually also dozed off. Dandelion, however, sat awake next to the fire, strumming his lute, writing a ballad about a witcher and a poet that fell in love. A love that not even death could destroy. Geralt and Essi never saw each other again after the morning that followed. For 4 years later, she died, due to a smallpox epidemic in Vizima. Dandelion carried her body far from the city, into the forest, where he was alone, and everything was peaceful. He buried her with the two things she asked to be buried with: her lute and the pearl, which represented her love for Geralt. A pearl which she never parted with, not even in death. Dandelion sat there throughout the night, singing his ballads of the Witcher and the poet. He never sang this song to anyone, yet it was so powerful that it made a vicious werewolf not attack and killed Dandelion. Instead, it listened and went on its way. Essi's death was everything she had feared, for she was sick, helpless, and possibly even alone. Though the ballad of Essi and Geralt never made it out into the public, some of Essi's own work did. During her stay in Alander, Ciri also read some books that had nothing to do with magic, including the ballads of Essi Daven, which were bound together in a volume entitled The Blue Pearl. Ciri had shed tears while reading these ballads, and so Essi had also made an impression on her. In The Witcher 3, the character of Priscilla is often seen as being inspired by Essi. Essi's story has evoked tears in many readers, with the complicated relationship between her and Geralt, as well as the sudden tragic ending. I'll leave it at this for Essi Daven. I feel that no matter how long and to how much detail I would go about this character, the best way to understand the emotion is in the story is to read it yourself. That was it for Essi Daven. Till the next video. Bye.